Hello friends! Every day the force and the number of the news intensifies more, and I make a synthesis of each one, trying to relate them and to look for an objective explanation of what happens. Although I have already reported this cyber attack, more details of it had now been revealed. Do not forget that tomorrow, Monday, that is to say, right now, the great conjunction of Jupiter with Saturn, of which so much has been talked about, takes place. Opinion article: Global cyber attack put all network experts on the defensive. They attacked the Pentagon and the State Department. The agency that holds the nuclear weapons was hacked. Never before seen cyber tools were used. The Pentagon ordered the shutdown of communication systems. The cyber attack seems to be from China, but others accuse Russia. All signs point to a serious conflict with China. It affected Spain, Mexico, Canada, Belgium, England and Israel. President Trump denies rumours of martial law. Flynn said that we have to follow a constitutional process. Rattcliffe report on foreign threat delayed. The Pentagon cancels meeting with Democratic team. Are they preparing to cross the Rubicon like Caesar? The General Flynn says that the army could repeat the elections. Sorcha Faal believes that the president has created a war cabinet. The Republican Party is in crisis due to its internal betrayals. The president is about to make the most important decision of his term. Trump enacts the law that could exclude Chinese companies from US exchanges. Let's start. Hackers broke into US government agencies and also spied on strategic companies and lower-profile organizations, including groups in Great Britain and a provider of internet according to the web logs and a security source. More details were revealed on Friday of the cyber espionage campaign that has computer network security teams around the world fighting to limit the damage, because the president's government has offered little information, according to the lawmakers. In Britain, a small number of organizations were compromised, but not the public sector. Shares of cybersecurity companies FireEye Inc., Palo Alto Networks, and CrowdStrike Holdings rose on Friday as investors bet the spate of disclosures from Microsoft Corp and others would fuel demand for cybersecurity. The attacks on government agencies will revealed Sunday hit the Department of Homeland Security, the Treasury Department, and the State Department, and the Emergency Department, and in some cases involved email surveillance. SolarWinds, which revealed its unwitting role at the center of the global attack on Monday, has said that up to 18,000 users of its Orion software downloaded a compromised update that contained malicious code planted by attackers. The attack is believed to have been the work of a foreign state, the company said in a communication to the regulator. Microsoft, one of thousands of companies that received the malicious update, said it had notified more than 40 customers whose networks were infiltrated by hackers. About 30 of those customers were in the US, Microsoft said. And the remaining victims were in Spain, Mexico, Canada, Belgium, England, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates. Most worked with information technology companies, some think tanks, and government organizations. Surprising. Reports say this is a carefully designed attack which could have started in the spring and affected to some 18,000 private and government users. Several American newspapers, including the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and the Washington Post, reported this week on massive hacking of numerous government institutions in the country, including the Department of State, Commerce, and the Treasury, as well as parts of the Pentagon. The newspapers, citing only anonymous sources and people familiar with the matter, blamed Russian hackers for the attack without evidence. Moscow repeatedly rejected all the accusations. Media reports do not contain any evidence that the Russian hackers are behind the hack, but are full of alert about the scope and sophistication of this carefully designed and long-running attack, which used never-before-seen cyber tools and surprised even the veteran security experts. Institutions. The first post about the attack was last Sunday, in which it is claimed that the Department of Treasury and Commerce was allegedly hacked through Microsoft's Office 365 service, allowing hackers to monitor emails from your staff for months. Throughout this week, it was announced that the Department of State and National Security, as well as parts of the Pentagon, were also compromised. On the other side, Bloomberg reported that the Department of Energy and its National Nuclear Security Administration, which maintain nuclear reserves, were also involved. In total, according to the estimates, approximately 18,000 private and government users may have been affected by the attack. Among the more than 300,000 SolarWinds customers, according to the IT company itself on its website, are the majority of US companies of the Fortune 500 list, the top 10 telecommunications providers, the 5 branches of the Army, the Department of State, the National Security Agency, and the Office of the President. The Department of Energy and the National Nuclear Security Administration were hacked and compromised, revealing national security secrets and details about America's nuclear missiles, nuclear fuel, conventional power grid assets, and more. This is a huge breach and a full-blown cyber warfare. The Pentagon's order to shut down secure internal communication systems across the board due to the devastating cyber intrusion is recalled. Another delay. Delayed the official presentation of the Rattcliffe report on foreign interference scheduled for Friday. Although rumors suggested that it was delivered to the president, who would make it public on Monday, coinciding with the historic conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn. The news points to an imminent intervention by the US Army. It seems that there are also certain agencies that would be trying to slow down the delivery of information about this matter. Career officials notified that the intelligence community will not meet the December 18 deadline established by executive order to present in Congress the classified evaluation of foreign threats in the elections. December 18 marks 45 days after the general election of November 3rd, when, according to a 2018 executive order, it was expected to deliver a report on whether there were interference attempts, as well as the nature of said interference, methods used, and who was involved and authorized such efforts. The director of the National Intelligence, John Rattcliffe, announced that there was foreign interference in the 2020 elections, according to CBS correspondent Catherine Harris. Rattcliffe leads the 17 intelligence agencies, has access to the most classified information that the government has, and said there was foreign interference from China, Iran, and Russia in November this year. Iran, not Iran. Sidney Powell, the former federal prosecutor who works alongside the Republican legal team pushing the electoral lawsuits, submitted a letter to the Supreme Court on the December 13 to notify 2 batches of recently obtained evidence about the dominant voting system team. Her letter describes the new affidavits of 2 forensic experts who alleged that international interference in the elections occurred and that the voting system was connected to foreign systems around the world. Cutting slaves. The Pentagon blocks the reports to Biden. The acting Secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, announced on Friday the suspension of meetings with the Democratic candidate team until after January 1st, which from the Democratic environment denounced as a decision that is part of the resistance of some sectors to the transition of power. It appears that the reports were blocked as a threat to national security, which indicates the turn of the situation is taking. Confusion increases in Washington as some supporters urge the president to cross the Rubicon, like Caesar, and declare a national emergency. The phrase is a reference to the famous historical decision of the Roman consul Gaius Julius Caesar to march on Rome after the Senate, led by Pompey the Great, accused him on treason and tried to arrest him. Caesar's move sparked a civil war in Rome, which he eventually won, and he became dictator. An Axios report on Friday claimed that acting Defense Secretary Chris Miller had ordered a total halt to briefings and meetings with Biden's transition staff, quoting anonymous officials as saying it was to give a break to the staff on the Pentagon during the holidays. This is not true, former acting Director of National Intelligence Richard Grinnell tweeted on Axios. Democrats have spent the summer accusing the president of wanting to carry out a military coup after what they said would be his inevitable electoral defeat. The president, the army, and the Pentagon have all rejected that speech as unfounded. A very important meeting. The president met with Sidney Powell and General Flynn on Friday. The deployment of the army was discussed, and Sidney Powell was appointed as a special advisor on the elections. General Flynn also joined Powell on Friday, and the deployment of the army was reportedly raised at the meeting but declined. According to the New York Times, Sidney Powell was in the Oval Office, and Attorney Rudy Giuliani joined the conversation on the phone, where his possible position as a special counsel was discussed. Army leaders joined General Milley and released a statement saying that the Army has no role in martial law to determine elections. Secretary of the Army Ryan McCarthy and Army Chief of Staff General James McConville issued a statement Friday saying that they would not participate in a martial law order. This came after General Michael Flynn suggested that the president should order the military to help size the dominant voting machines used in this year's election for testing. General Flynn said the army could repeat elections in contested states. Retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn said Thursday that the president has options regarding the close election, including sizing voting machines and using military capabilities to repeat the election in key states of the battlefield. He also clarified his position on the imposition of martial law, saying he doesn't ask for it, nothing, that we have a constitutional process that must be followed. On the other hand, Attorney Jenna Ellis said there is still time for state legislatures to meet in special sessions and authorize an alternate list of voters. This could pave the way for the joint session of Congress when convened on January 6th to count electoral votes to officially declare the president-elect. Martial law. The president on Sunday morning rejected articles in the press that reported on an alleged meeting in the Oval Office between him, Sidney Powell, and retired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn, where martial law would have been suggested. Martial law equal fake news. It's just knowingly bad reporting, he tweeted Sunday morning. An article published Saturday by the New York Times, citing anonymous sources, claimed that the president met with Powell, Flynn, Giuliani, and other advisors. For that information, the New York Times stated that two people who received news about the meeting provided information to their editors. Republican campaign Attorney General Ellis, who has assisted the president's lawsuits in key states, shared the president's tweet on Sunday, calling the New York Times article fake news. In an interview with Newsmax on December 18, Flynn suggested that the president could mobilize the military to repeat elections in key states. But in that same interview, Flynn, the former director of national intelligence, said he's not in favor of the imposed martial laws, which seems to contradict the New York Times report. In that, he could immediately, if he ordered it, seize every one of these machines across the country. If he ordered it, he could also order in undecided states. If he wanted to, he could acquire military assets and place them in those states and basically rerun an election in each of those states. It's not unheard of, Flynn told Newsmax. In the interview, Flynn said he was not advocating for the president to apply martial law because we have a constitutional process that needs to be followed. Weeks ago, Flynn published a press release from a group called We the People Convention that suggested a limited form of martial law to allow the military to oversee a new free and fair federal election if lawmakers, the courts, and Congress do not follow the Constitution. Financial lockout. A law expels Chinese companies from U.S. exchanges, obliged foreign companies to provide U.S. regulators access to their audit reports. The president signed a law on Friday that could lead to the exit of Chinese companies and other countries from U.S. exchanges. According to the document called Law to Hold Foreign Companies Responsible, regulators are allowed to request access to the audit reports of foreign companies as well as prohibit or forbidden the listing of their securities on any stock exchange in the country, if they do not obtain permission. The measure also requires public companies to disclose where they are owned and controlled by a foreign government. The measure is designed to apply to all foreign companies, but is particularly directed against Chinese companies whose shares are listed in the US, such as e-commerce giants Alibaba and Pinduoduo, and the oil company PetroChina Co. Limited. Summary. Update of the situation by Mike Adams. First, the members of the military and intelligence team have put everything in place for an insurrection law scenario, but the president still has to be the one who makes the decision. He doesn't dare yet. The most determined say that the courts will not be the solution, but only the military. General Flynn asks the president to invoke the insurrection law and insists on foreign interference in the elections. Third, Russian intelligence informant Sorcha Faal goes further when she thinks that a war cabinet has been created and then Washington has been evacuated. Fourth, the Republican Party is finished. McConnell has just committed suicide in his career and discredited the entire party by siding with the Democratic candidate. A new political party will emerge from all of this, and Americans will reject both one and the other. Fifth, we have all been thinking too small. The signs now point to a conflict with China, not simply an internal war with the swamp. The United States may be in an active international war before January 20th. I don't think so. Sixth, cyber attacks that appear to be from China, although the official news media continues to report on Russia, have penetrated and compromised the government agencies that control all nuclear missiles and stocks of nuclear material. Seventh, the signs now point to a war with China before January 20th. Eighth, Attorney Linwood was furious with Chief Justice John Roberts on Tuesday, whom he accused of having ties to the notorious pedophile island. Ninth, military sources expect hostile actions directed against the homeland. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, friend, for the listening. And take care and be aware of the conjunction tomorrow, which is almost today. Thanks a lot.